Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to Season 3 of Insights from the Couch. I'm Colette Fair, here with my co-host Laura Bowman. Both of us are licensed therapists, bringing you the conversations we have in person to the podcast. And today we've got an action-packed episode with lots of good nuggets of wisdom on creating change for the new year. Should you make resolutions? Everybody wonders. Should you make intentions? How do you create truly meaningful change? We're going to talk about the science of habits, identity-based change, taking radical responsibility for your life, what kinds of change work and don't work so that it's not February 1st and you're saying, what happened to those resolutions? So we have a lot of information for you today. Let's get started. I'm so excited to talk about this today. I really am. First of all, I'm contemplating making my own changes for the new year. And it's such a big topic. What's a healthy way to make change at the new year? If any, should you make resolutions? Should you make intentions? Should you build habits? Should you have goals? Should you do nothing?
Yeah. Should you give up skydiving?
Yes. Easy.
Right. Yeah. Like nothing. No, but I love change. I was always that kid, like in the new school year with like new notebooks, like that feeling of like, I'm going to get it right this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I actually like about the new year is that it gives you a fresh start.
Yeah.
You know, at least the feeling of a fresh start. But we know most people have given up their changes, their resolutions, if you will, by the middle of January, if not the beginning of February. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to bite off more than you can chew, do too much at once. So today we really want to dive into really making good change. What works, what doesn't work. And how you can, whatever you're grappling with out there that you want to change, it really is about living the life you want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just gave a whole speech about change at Toastmasters in early December. So I was really thinking on this.
So share some nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah. Like some of the things I realize are so paradoxical. Like the idea we hear about like SMART goals, like everything should be,
Specific, measurable,
attainable, realistic, and time bound, right? And that's kind of boring. Like that really the whole idea of like a wildly improbable goal, which is like has energy and you're really turned on by a goal, is something that really can pull you forward, but that you need both, right? You need the big vision and the incremental behaviors behind it. But people either trend one way or another where it's so like boring and dull and they're not really excited by it, or it's so wildly improbable that they never get started. And like how you need both somehow.
Yeah. And I like, I think you've read it too, right? Atomic Habits, James Clear.
It.
Yeah.
Love
and then
it.
I also read the BJ Fogg book, Tiny Habits, I think it was called. I didn't like that one as much, but actually a friend of mine, we were just talking about this and she had just read the book and said the one thing that stood out to her was that BJ Fogg talks about waking up and the first thing you do as you put your feet on the ground is saying, today is going to be a great day. And I read that book maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. Time is a very muddled proposition at this point. But I do that. And I kind of made that a little habit. And it sounds small, and it is, but it's really got a profound effect because you're setting an intention at the beginning of your day that it's going to be good. You're channeling your energy. I think of it like a gratitude, right? You're helping your brain remember that this is what it's going to be. And I think what I love about Atomic Habits that I thought was more successful than the other book, the storytelling, but also just the way he really makes it so simple that there's a science to habit formation, and you can have goals, which are about your results, or I think he calls them outcomes, right? And then you can, outcome driven things like I want to lose X number of pounds. I want to get a new job. I want to, whatever, be in better shape. I want to get a relationship this year. But that really, and then you can have identity-based goals where it's like, this is the person I want to be. And I think we should talk about that a little more. Yeah. Yes. And then also you can have process-driven goals, because really the whole thesis of the book is that however you go about it, it's small incremental changes consistently that change the direction of your life. And I'll never forget, he uses the analogy, think of an airplane. I'm not very good with these physics kind of things, but even that was such a powerful metaphor for me, that if a pilot changed, they were flying from New York to LA, and they changed the direction of the plane by 1 degree or something, you'd end up in a completely different, in the middle of the ocean. Mm-hmm. So if we can find ways to break down change and not say, okay, it's January and I've got to become a different person, get another job, lose 20 pounds, work out every day, right? But it's, who do I want to be? And then what tiny, 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 tiny little habits can I form and focus on the processes that support you?
Yeah. I got the same out of that book, like the processes and the systems, and how some of the most powerful imagery that I got out of that book was when he's talking about ice melting and that the temperature has to decrease, 1 degree at a time, and you don't see these changes. These are imperceptible. This is you putting in the reps, like doing the workouts or making the green drinks or not doing alcohol or whatever the little imperceptible behaviors are. And the temperature comes down until all of a sudden the ice melts. And he has the same imagery with the bamboo.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
The bamboo is growing for years underground, building infrastructure until one day it shoots into the air.
Right. And you don't see anything that's happening. And I think this is a part where people can get really stuck. I think we can all get stuck. I think he calls it the valley of disappointment.
Despair, the valley of despair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're waiting for your change to show you some sort of reward, but it's a delayed process.
Right. It's a delayed process. And I think that's the part people don't see. I've recently made a lot of changes to my life, what I'm doing professionally, what I'm dreaming is possible to do professionally, this being part of it. And it looks to people like, oh my gosh, you're doing all this stuff overnight. But I started laying a foundation for these things, going on TV, podcasting, doing public speaking a long time ago when no one saw anything happening. And even I at times questioned, is this going anywhere?
Yes. And that you have to be okay with a season, maybe a couple seasons of that type of, I'm putting in the reps, I'm seeing where this is going, I'm not sure where it's going, I'm staying curious, I'm staying open, I'm staying committed.
And flexible enough to alter the smaller little goals. So let's talk about that along the way. Let's talk about the identity piece, because I think for our listeners, whatever it is you decide to do with the fresh start this year, and if you decide to do nothing, that's okay too. I mean, I do think this becomes yet another social pressure, and fuck that, right? If this is a year where you just want to breathe and live,
that's
glorious.
A great goal.
Yes,
yeah, more joy, just more presence, more
but
allowing.
Every time we have the end of a season, the end of a year, I even think a lot about it in September, back to those new notebooks for the school year. That's such a habit in my body of fall as a fresh start. Just an opportunity to think more about life is short and how do I want to live it? Do I want to wake up every day and get out of bed and feel excited to be alive? That's what I want. And so when I think about what I want to change, and and right now I am thinking about that a lot, even as I have a lot on my plate. I think about, okay, when I envision myself taking responsibility for my own life, knowing I'm the only person who is going to take care of me ultimately, right? I'm going to live the life I create. How do I see myself? And then, okay, what do I need to do? What degree do I need to shift the course of the airplane almost imperceptibly that helps me get from here to there?
Can we just stop for a minute? Because I love so much what you just said. I just told you before we started, I love the post you have about that your life really began to change when you realized that no one was coming to save you.
Yes.
That it was going to, it was going to be you that changed your life and you were responsible for you. And, having seen a lot of people and being this person myself at times and having the belief that something outside of me was going to fix things for me, that's a change unto itself. If that's the one thing you tackle this year, that you realize that like your life is your responsibility, that's its own thing.
It's a huge thing, and I didn't always see it that way. I mean, sadly, there were times that I had romantic fantasies that I bought into, that I believed, like the fairy tale of as awful as it sounds. I would never have said it this way.
Yeah.
Someone's going to ride up on a white horse and kiss me while I'm in a coma and bring me back to life. But I think initially after my divorce, I sort of thought that, like, oh, I'll be in a better relationship and everything will work out. And that was really abdicating all of my responsibility. And not only that, but my power.
Yep.
So it is a huge shift and it is critically important. But let's talk a little bit about what that looks like, because we see this in therapy, right? And I see it as when you're not taking responsibility for your life. It's a mindset where you're steeped in resentment.
Victimology,
resentment, jealousy about other people, right? Oh, it's not fair. They have this and they didn't work that hard. I work so hard.
I got screwed in this scenario. It wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I just want to say, like, if you're in that place, that's information. It's just, and I think you have to grieve and you have to like listen to your own resentments, but God, don't stay there. Like, that's not a place to stay. It's a place to visit, hopefully, to pass through. And it's like, if you can pass through it, things can get better.
Yeah, this is not to say that if something awful's happened, that you don't have a right to feel angry, hurt, disappointed, rage at the universe. I mean, these feelings are normal, but there's a difference between a victim mindset and getting stuck in resentment. And I don't think resentment is really ever a healthy place to me. To me, resentment means that there's someplace you're letting go of your power, because it's sort of a hybrid of like anger and hurt and injustice. And again, doesn't mean you don't have a right to be angry or that a wrong has not been perpetrated, but you're choosing to stew in your own disempowered juices instead of say, okay, this fucked up thing happened. It's not okay. That person wronged me, or that person like hurt me. Now, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to take back my power, rebuild my life, focus on me? Because whatever anyone else out there is doing has absolutely, really, at the end of the day, no bearing on your happiness.
Yeah. As soon as you can, I completely agree with everything you just said. And that is the quickest you can get to the question of, what are my choices? What are the choices I have now? Even though this fucked up thing happened, or this wasn't fair, or this was not supposed to be my life, what choices do I have now? And the people who can get past that place are focused on what their choices are.
Yes.
Next.
And what do I want to do? And again, it doesn't mean something awful hasn't happened that doesn't take time to work through. I'm not minimizing that.
Yeah.
Nor am I saying I've never been stuck in these places myself.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, I think we all have, but I've learned from them. And now when something happens to me where I feel wronged by someone or hurt or disappointed, I still feel the feelings, but I really don't shift into the like, oh, you did this to me. I stay in the like, okay, so what does this mean for me? What boundaries do I need to set? What role did I play and what went wrong, if any? How can I learn from it? How can I grow? You know, what does this tell me about who I want in my life? What kind of relationships I want? It's just a different shift. So what we're saying here is all change starts with owning responsibility for your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Start there.
Have you ever read that poem? I think I read it to you years ago. It's not even a poem. It's like an ode to responsibility.
No, I'm curious now.
That I found. Oh my God. If I can find it, I'm going to read it. I think I have it.
Okay.
I found it in a drawer at when I worked in residential treatment, years ago for Aspire. And it was so powerful. Let me just see if I have it really fast.
Oh, I think we all need to hear that.
It's almost shocking how like hardcore it goes, but here it is. I have saved almost nothing and I still have this. I mean, I must have gotten this 20 years ago. Okay. It's called The Risk of Autonomy.
Oh, I have this sheet. I got this sheet years ago, I think, from somebody, maybe Sally Erickson.
Yeah, probably. Maybe that's where I got it. Let's give Sally credit.
Yeah.
Okay, should I read it?
Please.
It's so powerful. Okay. The risks of autonomy. Who's responsible for you? Accepting responsibility gives with giving up the hope that someone else will care for you and protect you. We are largely alone in this world and always have been. There is no other road to take in life but to accept responsibility. If you do not accept responsibility for your life, for every bit of your life, you place yourself in jeopardy. You've been you for a long time now, and you've had the ability to say no and to act on your beliefs. As soon as you were aware something was wrong, you had some responsibility for changing it. Other people do not have an accurate view of your inner world, your plans, or potential. Others can never really act for you, but only for what they think you need. In other words, for them. When you accept responsibility, you are saying, this is my risk. I am in jeopardy and I will assume it. To accept responsibility means that you're going to do what has to be done or you're not going to do what has to be done. And that whatever happens, good or bad, it's to your credit or to your fault. Okay, here's the mantra part. You are responsible for what you say. You are responsible for what you are. You are responsible for what you feel. You are responsible for what you do. You are not responsible for making anyone else happy. You are not responsible for becoming what someone else wants you to be. You are not responsible for distorting the truth to keep from hurting another person's feelings. Amen. You are responsible when someone breaks a secret you told them because you were a poor judge of character. Ouch. You are responsible when people use what you say to hurt you because you should be able to tell when a person does not wish you well. And you are responsible for defending yourself. You are responsible for the ties other people have with you because it takes two to tango. You are responsible for everything in your life that wouldn't be there unless you did something. If you don't like your lifestyle, you are responsible. If you don't like your job, you are responsible. If you don't like your home, you are responsible. If you don't like your husband or wife, you are responsible. If you don't like you, you are responsible. If you don't like the way you are treated, you are responsible. You are responsible for everything in your life, all the successes and failures. Accept your success with modesty and gratitude that your plans have worked out. Accept your failures as realities from which you must learn. Without taking responsibility for your life, you will never be happy because no one can fix your life but you. And this is by Dr. David Viscott from a book called Risking.
Yeah, I've tried to get that book. I haven't been able to find it. I think it's out of print, but oh my God, I feel very shook by that.
Me too.
But I think I'm so glad we're talking about this while we're talking about change, because this is the nascent place of change.
Yeah. And
You
it's
got to
the
get
missing
here
piece
first.
why
Yeah.
people get stuck.
Yeah. Ugh.
You
Yeah.
have to be willing to say, whatever is happening in my life, I am responsible. And if I want to change it, it starts with me and ends with me.
Yeah. And I've had phases. God, I've had to go around a circle and like so many iterations of trying to get other people to do things, so that I would feel better. Or when are you going to fix this so I can relax? I've had to go around that maypole a few times before I've finally gotten here.
Oh, me too. And for years, even in my current marriage, I did this, and now I don't do it anymore. But I used to, if I do it this way, then you'll get it and you'll change. Oh, if I say it that way. Oh, maybe if I do this, but surely I can explain. And I used to like tap dance around, in part because that was the role I played as a child, feeling empowered and adultified in ways to try to manage adults during my parents' divorce. I think that's where I learned that behavior. Not that it worked, but it was some way to try to exert control over what I felt powerless about in my environment. But we grow up and we're still doing these things, become habits of behavior. And that is right up there with taking responsibility, is letting go of the responsibility of managing other people are who they are.
Yeah.
Let them do what they're going to do. And then you have choices to make based on what they do.
And this right here is like so often why women come to therapy, right? They're so frustrated by my partner, behaviors that won't change.
My children.
Things that just feel so unyielding, and they want control. And it's accepting and allowing, and you see people banging their head against this wall for years. Okay, well, I'm glad we started with responsibility.
Me too. And I have little goosebumps, and I have had that thing for 20 years. I've read it a million times.
Yeah.
It never fails to produce a charge in my body.
Yeah.
Like a feeling of wow. And even now, as I read it again, and there's been so much growth on taking responsibility and letting go of what isn't mine, there's still a lot more work to do. And it's an important thing to remind ourselves of. Stay in your lane. Drive your car in your lane.
Yes.
Everybody else, it might be, like I-95 in Miami out there, but you do you.
And allow other people to do them.
Yes.
This is like the Mel Robbins let them theory, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
It's
not
on the
paid
internet.
much attention. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen it. Her new book. I'm not like a huge fan. So
I'm not either, but I think it's that idea of let people do what they're going to do. Behavior is a language. And then it's up to you to respond, how you're going to live your life.
I love behavior as a language.
Behavior is a language. It communicates, doesn't it?
Right. Because words are meaningless if they're not accompanied by consistent, congruent behavior.
Yeah. Okay. So let's shift into like nuts and like other strategies for change. What has been like an area in your life where you're the proudest of changes you've made?
Oh my God.
Or you made the best change?
I feel like I've made so many changes.
You have.
And I'm constantly making changes. I feel like I reinvent myself over and over. And this is sort of the way I live my life. I really like change. But I would say, just to out myself a little, or at the risk of outing myself a little, one of the biggest and hardest of my life has been quitting smoking.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like a crack addict with cigarettes. And I started smoking at a very young age, very young, like 12 years old. We could buy cigarettes in the vending machine at the train station. I grew up in a suburb of New York, so we took the train all the time back and forth to different towns where my friends lived. I was always at the train station, and I was always smoking cigarettes at the train station. And all my friends did it too, but most of them didn't get hooked on it to the degree I did. You know how you can have a genetic predisposition for certain addictions?
Yeah.
Cigarettes, it's like my greatest true love.
Yeah.
Like,
I've heard other people say that same thing.
oh my God. And it really was more of a behavioral addiction. I never had any nicotine withdrawal. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but there was something about a moment where I get to just think and process and like smoke my cig.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I couldn't ever imagine my life without. And I tried everything. Eventually, it was giving me some health consequences. Like, I still don't really know exactly what. But once I discovered that, I really had to make a decision to get that out of my life. And at that point, I'd been smoking on and off since I was 12 years old, and I didn't quit till I was 40.
How old were you when you finally quit?
40.
Really?
Yeah.
God. Well, you made it look easy because when you quit, I felt like you just made a decision. But was it like fear and pain that kind of like
and this is
hastened that choice?
Well, and this is one of the things about making change is that you do have to have some motivation. And my motivation was, I quit when I graduated from college. I didn't ever see myself being like an adult smoker. I thought it wasn't part of my identity that I wanted to be a smoker. Like if I saw an adult smoking, I was like, ew, but then I smoked.
Yeah, it's different when I do it.
Yes, it made no sense. But I did quit after college, and then I didn't smoke for years until after I had Charlotte, my first daughter. Then it became just the like, oh, I'm just going to have a cigarette like the few times I get out of the house with like a glass of wine because, your whole life changes when you become a mom. It became a mini rebellion. But because I have so many neural pathways for that, eventually I started smoking more and more. And then when I got divorced, that's when I got back into it. So I had about 8 or 9 years of like chain smoking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the motivation was fear, wanting to be in good health. And I realized I had a rationalizing story of like, okay, well, I'm going to quit before I get lung cancer, before I do damage. Like I'm just young and I'm smoking because I'm going through a crisis. Right. And as soon as my crisis ends, well, I mean, is the crisis going to last my whole life? Like all of a sudden I'm 40 years old. I'm not young, right? I mean, I'm a smoking adult. I had to confront the fact that the identity I rejected was who I was and that that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, I love that. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I think pain is one of these things that really brings you to your knees. I think that's the thing above everything that will help you change the quickest. You can want to something, but fear, consequence, and pain are bar none.
Okay, so this is why so often, and I get why people are frustrated, but it's really true. I believe what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying 1,000%. When people come to couples therapy, something I'll often hear is, now I'm about to walk out the door. Like I'm done. I basically told him I want a divorce. And it's more often the wife saying this in a heterosexual couple. And now he's ready to come to therapy and make change. And he's doing all these things. Like, what the fuck? It's too little too late. Why didn't you do this 8 years ago when I tried to come to you with my legitimate complaints and you didn't do shit? And it's because, unfortunately, sometimes people cannot get their head out of their ass until they suffer. They taste loss. They feel afraid.
100%.
And I guess the cautionary tale on this is if you have a partner, whether you're a man or a woman, who's saying, hey, I'm not happy, or I feel lonely, or we need to do something, listen before the pain comes, because sometimes people don't pay attention until it's too late.
I would argue most people don't pay attention until it's too late.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, a lot of meaningful change for me has come from pain. Watching my dad die at 61, and the health choices that he made and the confronting reality of the genetics in my family, I think has pushed me to be much more conscious of my health than I otherwise would have been.
Because you really changed the way you exercise, the way you eat. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, my dad was, we just have a pattern in our family of like emotional eating. They're big drinkers, they're big eaters. They're just like, my dad's whole family was like like Mad Men from the 1950s, you know,
Yeah.
cigarettes and like martinis and good
Those were the
rich
days.
food. And, you know, my dad was an eater. He was a closet smoker. He was a closet drinker, which is so weird because he would go out and he would have a martini and a non-alcoholic beer and look like the most moderate person. But when he would go home to his house, it was a whole other story. And he like binge ate. He soothed himself with food. And unfortunately, I am my father's daughter. I am my father's daughter in so many ways. And I'm not a drinker or a smoker, but I'm prone to emotional eating, and I'm just watched him kill himself essentially till he got large B cell lymphoma, which killed him in like 21 days. And my grandfather before him died, it's like I think 67 from lymphoma. So like this is, you know, like you have to look at your genetics and who you favor and take a hard look at like where am I headed if I don't change these generational patterns. So, you know, I became a runner. And that was an incredible like awakening for me to my own power and my own choices. And I loved becoming a runner, but it was initially motivated out of, God, I got to take care of myself or this is where I'm headed. And I'm still confronting that, you know, on like eating whole foods. I know we probably are all on that, you know, that trajectory of like some days you do better with that than others. But I know that I have to take my health seriously.
Yeah.
And other pain points. I mean, things with money. I had a family where people rescued other people I was rescued constantly with money. I had a client say to me, I don't owe anybody anything. He said, I have paid my college. Nobody's ever bought me a car. Nobody's ever taken care of me a day in my life. And he's like, I own my life. That's what he was communicating to me. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, so I've had the opposite experience. And it fostered the belief that like the help was always coming from outside.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. That is another huge change that you and I have both made. I was rescued with money my whole life too. I really did think it grew on trees and that somehow it would always be there. I was never preoccupied with it. I just assumed
because it was always going to be there.
Right. It would just materialize when I need it. And I've never cared about money or things very much. But I didn't even realize how distorted my beliefs were. And it was a messy path. I mean, when I went to graduate school to become a therapist, my father was willing to pay for graduate school. And I was trying to make this change. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it myself. And I'm going to take student loans out like everybody else. But I didn't know what I didn't know. My financial and fiscal behaviors and understanding were so immature that I got myself screwed into like $100,000 of student loans. And it was a mess. And I paid them off, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was trying to take responsibility and get out of all of that. But it was a really bumpy road. And at many times going back to victimology, I was like, I should have let my dad pay. What the hell? What an ass. Like, why did this happen to me? Well, it happened to me because I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't educate myself adequately on the loans. It's easy to blame them on other people. I mean, it's not a really great industry, but I think that if you're going to make changes in your identity and how you do things, changes that are lasting, it is important to note that there's going to be a lot of messing up, a lot of messiness, and painful growth along the way. These changes don't come easily.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like you had to get into that big bind because I was like working next to you when you were getting out of it. And I think it's like you're born in those moments. You know, your identity is born in solving some of these problems. Like that's why I always say, like, kind of bless the mess.
Yep.
If you're in a pain point right now where you're like, I don't know how this ends, you know, this is where you are this is your crucible where you are becoming who you're meant to become next.
Yeah.
I know you wouldn't choose it, but it
forges
takes you
you
to the next level. It forges you.
Yeah, because you're right. You were there beside me. There was a period of maybe 2 years. I didn't buy anything. I didn't go anywhere. I spent thousands of dollars a month on my student loans. I made the choice to
shovel out of it.
Right. I had the temptation of like, maybe it'll just go away. Maybe some president will like eradicate it or whatever. And then I thought, you know what? I got to take responsibility and just do it. And I'm not saying everybody's in a position to do it. I'm not trying to say everyone has the same variables that I did. But what I am trying to say is that it did not come without suffering. And it did not come without discipline. And I do think this is something increasingly society doesn't like to talk about, but is also very important. Whatever changes you're going to make, there is a degree. Discipline is actually healthy. It's the way we parent ourselves. It doesn't have to come with a rod and corporal punishment, right? Figuratively speaking, emotionally. We don't have to beat ourselves up. We can be encouraging, self-compassionate, and self-loving, but we do have to hold ourselves accountable and build a muscle for discipline.
I completely agree. Becoming a consistent human is what becoming an adult is.
Yes.
And I love that stuff now. It's kind of where I find the most pride. When I was looking back on the years, sometimes you think I'm going to make a change and it's going to happen really quickly. But like you said, it's like 1 degree at a time. And I feel like I have layers of sediment now where it's like, okay, I did that for a year.
Yep.
And now I'm doing this for a year. Like,
exactly.
I was so happy to see like my streak, I do weightlifting. I've done it like 220 classes now.
That's amazing, Laura.
Yeah. And I'm getting stronger. And I know this year I can get a layer stronger. I can take it to the next level from here. And I feel like that's the way my life has gone in general with my business, with where I push myself. It's like I go here and then I go a level up. But this is you're just taking the next step of consistency and discipline.
Yep, exactly.
It's not sexy.
No. And that is actually my thing right now for this year. I have so much going on professionally. I don't feel like I need any more goals there. I really want to get back in shape. It's interesting for me. I'm someone who has popped in and out of being in good shape. And I can, you know how they say there's no true science to how many days it takes to set a habit? It's just never quite becomes like a permanent habit for me. And I mean, I've gone a decade where I didn't miss more than a workout a week, where I was exercising every day and feeling good about it. It always brings a ton of dopamine, which is the reward loop of habits, right? That something feels good. It makes you want to do it more. Somehow it never quite takes off for me with exercise. There's still that like teenage part in me that wants to like lay around, eat junk food and binge watch TV and read books. Like that is like my default, a very strong part in me.
Identity.
Yeah. That like, if that part gets the chance to do that, that thing will come back. Yeah. Where and I'm not a lazy person at all. It's not that. It's just like, I guess the way I learned to self-soothe at a young age that still feels the strongest. So getting up and getting right into my workout clothes, because early morning is really just the only way I can consistently work out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I want to get back into that. So as we segue a little into like, let's give some of the bullet points about making these small changes. That is the 1 degree toward the life you want to live, whatever that may be. I can use as an example for me, I was going to do 10 minutes a day, but even that I feel like, and set a certain time a day, even that is probably too big. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong because they don't have the patience to say, if I slice it really thin, right, then it feels like it's not good enough.
It's not big enough. It's not going to help. Yeah.
But the way to do it, and I've done this before and it worked. I did this during COVID. Now I'm on Zepbound diet shots, as you know, and I'm losing weight slowly. But back during COVID, and it's not as easy even on the damn shots. Like, I'm not this person who's disappearing in 3 months like other people. Like, I'm still hungry. It's fucking crazy, but it's definitely helping. But during COVID, I lost like 25, 30 pounds on my own.
Yeah.
And I built a regular habit of working out, and I started really, really small. So I think where I need to go is I've got to get myself in the clothes. I'm in the habit right now of laying in bed. I wake up early, but I lay in bed and I play 8 New York Times word puzzles.
A lot of people do that. Yeah.
And I love it. It's like my favorite little time of the day. So I've either got to like add this I want to get in the clothes and I just want to get on my stupid fucking Peloton that is sitting there like an obnoxious piece of furniture in my living room, unused.
Well, that's a big BJ Fogg strategy, is
Right.
that you take an existing habit and you link a new one to it.
Yeah, and James Clear says that too. Right.
Yeah.
BJ Fogg talks about every time he peed, he'd do 2 push-ups.
Yeah. I get that.
So I'm trying to figure out, how I can just get myself into the clothes and get on the Peloton. Truly, if I were willing to spend a month where I just got dressed and got on and walked for 2 minutes.
You would do it. You would start.
Yeah, that's probably what I need to do, because guess what? In 6 months, I'll be back to running 2 or 3 miles. Instead, what I did is I signed up for a 5K, which I can't run. And I bought all those weight things at your place, which I'll go once and I'll be in the hospital. It's too big.
It's too big. You got to start right there.
Right.
And work your way up.
And the steps are, I was just looking at this. There has to be a cue, right? A craving, a response, and a reward. This is how you build habits. And a habit is essentially just something that's automated. Your brain no longer has to divert mental energy and resources to making it happen. You just do it, right? I wake up and I grab my little spelling bee and I'm ecstatic when I see the little letters and can I figure it out without the hints?
So great.
I want to be that ecstatic about getting on my Peloton.
Yeah, and it may take months. But this is, I've talked about Elizabeth Benton before on this, but if anybody's curious, I love her principles. She has this whole thing on consistency. She has the principles of consistency. So if you're curious, look up Elizabeth Benton. But one of her principles of consistency
Do tell, because I struggle with this.
Yeah, is that where you start is not where you stay. And this is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that you start by just putting your workout outfit on and standing on the treadmill. But, 2 months later, you're going to be walking 2 miles or running a mile or whatever.
Right. Because the point is that actually some days you might get on, because my hardest part is getting in the clothes.
Yeah.
It's cold. I mean, Florida cold, not 89 degrees. And I'm I'd rather be under my duvet cover doing my little word puzzles. But once I'm in the clothes, many days I'm going to get on the treadmill and maybe I will feel like doing it. But then there are those days that I'm not going to feel like doing it. And this is the point of having it small, is that if it's super small and I know I only have to get on and walk for 2 minutes, right? And then I'm done. Then on those days, I've still met my goal.
I love that. Yeah. So that's where you're starting. That's your beginning of building the bamboo infrastructure.
Yes. And Laura, as I say this, there is the part of me, I can feel her chomping at the bit right now going, shut the fuck up, Colette. That is the dumbest thing ever. That's not good enough. It's not satisfying. You're going to put all this energy and you're only going to do 2 minutes. You got to go, go, go. You're losing muscle tone. You don't have time for this to take months, right? I can feel that part.
But that part will slow you down.
Right.
It's that belief system that slows us down.
And this
Because
is
it's
where
never good enough, right? It's never big
Right.
enough change, impactful enough change.
and this is where self-compassion comes in, where I can talk to that part and say, I hear you that you're worried that I'm not going to make these changes, that I'm not going to get back in shape, that I'm going to lose all my muscle tone, because these diet shots make you lose muscle even more. And we know at this stage of life, muscle is everything. I mean, I was never that muscular. I am like the most delicious jelly donut right now. Like it is really bad. Yeah. So, but that part's just worried that if it doesn't push me to say, okay, tomorrow before work, I'm going to get on the treadmill and I'm going to run for 45 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that will feel like a workout. But you know what? Then I won't do it again because I won't be able to walk for 4 days.
Right. Right. So where you start is not where you stay.
Right.
And trust the process on change.
Right. And making a small change. So the idea of a cue is what is going to be the impetus for the thing? Like pair it with something else, right? Make it more attractive to do it.
Like coffee is like for me, my cue. Like I can get out of bed for coffee. And if I'm out of bed, I'm likely to do some sort of physical movement.
Okay. You know, another friend of mine was just saying the same thing about the cue being coffee. Maybe I should try that.
Yeah. I probably, if I had to quit coffee, I think some of my behaviors would slip.
Well, I'm definitely not quitting coffee, but I was thinking maybe even, so the cue, I thought about doing my one little Wordle, but then what if I did, because the idea of making it attractive, you know, a lot of people will talk about with habits, watch your favorite TV show on the treadmill or the bike.
Yeah.
So you're pairing an activity you love with an activity that's less desirable. You know, I can't really run doing my word puzzles, but what if as I first got on, what if I did my little spelling bee?
Yeah.
Like as I was warming up.
I love that. I would pair it. I would pair that whole routine
I'm going to try
together.
that. I'm going to try that. And then the other thing that I think, I'm just using this as a metaphor, but is making it easy. So what worked for me during COVID was that I got my workout clothes out. They were right there. I didn't have to do that extra step, right? And I put them right by the bed. Like there they are.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Those are perfect for that habit. One of the things that I know that I'm ready to do, and I just sort of confronted this recently, is that there's been a few areas of my life that I really want to take to the next level. And I was like, I think I need help. Like, I think I need to like hire somebody.
For what?
Like, I think I want a business coach. Like, I think I need that. Like, and I, you know, I have this, I'm very independent, or I'm somebody who I think is pretty hard to help. I do a lot of like internal processing.
Yeah.
You know that about me. And so I'm always kind of keeping my own, I don't know, my own thoughts in, and they're all inside. And I think I need to externalize some of these things, because the consciousness that creates problems is not the consciousness that's going to solve a problem. So I'm like, I think I want help here. I've also thought about like, there's this money group, like investing group for women. And I'm like, I think I might want to get involved in. I think I need help. I think I need the inspiration of other people to push me forward, because my mind doesn't know the next step there.
Right. Okay.
So
if
that's
you
another
do an
thing.
investment group, I want to do that too.
I know, right?
I need to be educated.
Yes. I need more. I need help in certain areas. And I think we all need help in certain areas.
I agree. I think I need help in some of the areas you need help too. I think what's hard though sometimes is finding the right person, finding the right fit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's not an overnight thing, you know? But I love that, right? Like if you're stuck, get help.
Get help.
Right? With whatever it is.
Yeah, you know, quitting drinking, like sometimes people need help there. There are some things you can keep your own counsel around, and you can create momentum on your own. And in that case, it's like maybe you don't broadcast your intentions. Like those people that are like, I'm going to get in such like killer shape. Like this is the year, right? It's like, shut up, you know?
Yeah.
Just keep it to yourself for a while, right?
Yeah, I never keep anything to myself, as you know, but I agree.
You know
In
what
theory,
I mean.
I know what you mean.
Listen
I
to this all the
agree.
time. It's like, stop, don't broadcast it. Because when you broadcast it, sometimes it takes all the energy out of it. When you have like a little personal goal, sometimes it's like you're gardening at night. It's kind of like exciting. It's on the down low.
I hear you. I think I'm a little bit opposite on this one. And maybe it speaks to our extroversion, introversion, internal versus external processing. For me, yes, I run the risk of like, I say a goal and then people are like, she didn't do it. At this point in my life, I don't give a fuck. At least I'm somebody who's stepping up to the plate and taking chances. Yeah. And so if like the world sees that I didn't make a goal happen, like so be it. Right. Everybody else can stay home and suck their thumb while I'm out taking risks. So I don't feel embarrassed. But what it does for me when I tell people is it makes it more real. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not going to let that.
I love it.
That doesn't hold me back anymore. I think it used to at some point. Look, if I say I want to have a TV show, then if I don't get a TV show, then everyone's going to see that. Who cares? Great. At least I went for it, right? I don't know what's going to happen. But to me, when I say, I want to have a TV show, I want to be a therapist on TV, when I put that out into the world, and I don't want it for fame, I want it for the joy of it. Like it's something that excites me. It's a new challenge. It's something that makes me want to jump up out of bed and wake up every day. That's why I want it. I want to feel alive. And so the more I say it and the more I tell people, to me, the more energy it gets, the more real it feels, the more my intentions of like, this is what I'm doing and it's happening feel real.
I mean, I totally get that. And then the other perspective just for me is that I feel like I need to create self-trust around behaviors. So if I want to do something that is new to me or it's not in line with my default mechanisms, and I know that my system is always pulling me off the road, I want to prove to myself with behavior quietly that I've got what it takes to do the thing before I'm saying it into the world. But that
makes
to me
sense too.
Yeah, that makes sense too. But at the same time, I think there are areas where you have to like be like, I'm raising my hand. I need help. I need help. I need somebody to I need somebody else's thoughts or some accountability around some things.
Process with somebody and get into action.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you just have to know what those things are for you. Another thing that us talking, I know we're like running long here, is that we're always thinking about that, the negative way we think is that we always have to remediate our weaknesses, right? Like just even you with like the getting in shape, like it's something that's hard for you, but it's like you want to deal with it. I think change should be about remediating some weaknesses, but like double downing on your strengths. I think that's your example of that, like with the speaking stuff and the acting stuff and the television stuff, that's you going, I know what I'm good at. And I'm like I'm sliding my money towards black, right?
Yeah.
And that I think most of our energy should go to things that we're exceptional at. And some of our energy should go towards remediating the things.
I agree. I am not trying to become like a fitness guru. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just want my motivation is to just feel and be healthy. Yeah. I want to be healthy. I want to take care of myself because I care about myself. But that is not my thing. It's never going to be my thing. So for me, it's more a matter of, as I'm thinking about the changes, I've scanned back, and this can be helpful for people too, to times in my life where my fitness routine was serving me, not what other people think it should be. I'm not going to spend hours in the gym, and I don't want to. I'm not interested in that. And all the power to you if you are. It's just not for me. But times when my routine worked well was when I woke up, I swallowed the frog, I did about a 20-minute workout, I ran on a treadmill. I do really like to run. I'm not willing to go outside in the dark by myself for a host of reasons. But that was when I really enjoyed working out. I felt great. I love the endorphins it gives you. So something like that's probably the big trajectory for me is I want to get in, like you and I have talked about, a couple of weight workouts a week.
Yeah.
Which I didn't used to do. And then I want to wake up most mornings and do a short burst of cardio, whether it's walking fast, jogging, that's it. That's the final road. Yeah. So, but I agree. Your strengths are your strengths for a reason. They're going to bring you the most joy if
and they're going to pull you forward the quickest. Yeah. Like you're never going to be like whatever. I mean, I'm terrible at like math. I'm never going to be an abstract mathematician, and spending any time there is pretty much a waste of my energy. So it's like figure out the things that you as your special sauce and put energy towards that this year. So if you're looking at the things you want to change and they're all things that are not areas of strength for you, pick at least one area where you're doubling down on your essential stuff.
Right. And just 1%. What if you shifted just 1%?
Yeah.
What if you just read a book about something you're interested in? What if, right? Like start really small. So for these goals, we're talking about pair it up with some kind of cue that's going to lead to a new behavior, make it attractive, make it easy. You need some kind of reward built in. Maybe the cue is coffee, but maybe after the workout, it's another coffee or it's
there you go.
A pastry or whatever the hell. Who cares? Just something that feels like a reward. And then I think one final thing you and I talk about all the time, but is so important for this when we're making identity-based changes and creating change about living the life you want to live, visualize. Visualization is a proven tool. It works. That book, The Secret, a million years ago, whether you think that's a bunch of bullshit or the most profound book you ever read, if there's anything to it, it's that what your mind focuses on, what you see for yourself, it fills your heart, it expands in your body, and you will naturally start to take action according to what you're envisioning. So think about if I were so excited to get out of bed every day in 6 months.
I love this.
What would be happening in my life that would make that come true?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Right? The joie de vivre.
Yeah, by my life, what would be happening?
Yes. And then backtrack from there. Take the littlest, teeniest nugget. Yep.
Yeah.
And you'll get there.
So goals are big and small. They're public and private. They're strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Like there's paradox, there's nuance to how you do change, but I think we hit it today. And you got it at the heart of it. It's you taking radical responsibility
for your life,
for your one precious life.
Exactly. Mary Oliver, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Exactly. All right. Well, on that note, let's wrap up. Thank you all for listening. And if you liked what you heard today on Insights from the Couch, and we hope you did, please share with your friends and don't forget to write us a 5-star review. Those reviews help us spread the word to other women out there like you. We're so grateful to you all and excited to be back for season 3. Lots more good episodes to come every Wednesday.
Take care, guys.